My name is Vexthal Ornan. I was the third fleet overseer of the Convergence, and I am writing this account because someone must remember what happened, even if no one ever reads these words. I have led fleets to many worlds. I have watched other species surrender before we even finished our approach, because everyone in the known stars understood one simple truth. When the Convergence Armada arrives, there is no point in fighting back. Our ships numbered in the thousands, our soldiers numbered in the millions. When we dropped out of hyperspace above a planet, the sky itself seemed to turn into solid metal, filled edge to edge with our vessels. No world had ever stopped us, not once, in 400 years. I want to tell you what it felt like before, so that what happened after will mean something to you. The blue and white world was called Earth. Our scouts had studied it for years before we arrived. According to every report, every measurement, and every calculation our analysts had made, this world should not have taken more than a few hours to bring under our control. Their technology was simple. They had only just begun exploring their own solar system. They had a handful of space stations and a small number of crewed ships that our officers jokingly called the little boats. Their weapons used basic chemical and kinetic power, nothing close to what we carried. Our shields alone could have stopped 100 years of their strongest weapons without any damage at all. High Marshal Doskaru gave the order to bring our entire 3rd and 9th fleets into their system at the same time. He wanted to show them, in one single moment, the full size of what they were facing. He believed the shock alone would end any thought of resistance. I remember standing on the bridge of our flagship, a great vessel called the Aegis of Unbroken Will, watching our display fill with thousands of golden lights, all arranged in perfect formation around one small, pale blue dot. I remember feeling something strange in that moment, not fear, not excitement, something closer to sympathy for the small world below us. I had seen this moment many times before, and I always knew how it would end. We opened a channel to their planet, following the same procedure we always used. High Marshal Doskaru spoke through a signal translated into their radio frequencies. He offered them the choice we always offered every world. They could accept our rule and receive protection. They could offer tribute and be left mostly alone. They could join us and share what we had built across the stars. Or, if they refused everything, there would be consequences. This last option was never truly meant to happen. No species before them had ever chosen it. There was no answer. Not a single signal came back. Not one ship rose up to meet us. Their planet sat there, quietly turning in space, as if thousands of our warships were not close enough to darken portions of their sky. My second officer, a calm and careful woman named Yathara, suggested that perhaps they had not even noticed our arrival yet. I remember smiling at that thought. I told her that within a few hours, this world would simply be another name added to our long list of conquered systems. I did not know, at that time, how wrong I was. I cannot say exactly when things began to change. That is something I still struggle with, even now. There was no clear beginning, no flash of light, no warning shot, no enemy fleet rising up to challenge us the way we expected. If they had come to fight us directly, at least I would understand what had happened. Instead, there was only this. Ithara's display, which had shown thousands of our ships only minutes before, began to show fewer. At first, it seemed like a simple error in our systems. Then the number kept dropping, faster and faster, until it was changing too quickly to properly read. I gave orders. I do not remember exactly what I said. I remember officers around me calling out things that made no sense. They spoke of gaps appearing in our formation, spaces where ships had been only a moment before. When a vessel is destroyed in battle, there is always something left behind. Broken metal, fire, debris drifting through space, but this was different. Ships were simply gone, and even the space where they had been seemed untouched, as if nothing had ever happened there at all. One moment, a vessel called the Bright Reckoning held tens of thousands of our people along the eastern edge of our formation. The next moment, there was only empty space where it used to be. I gave the order to retreat. I want that written down clearly. In 400 years of service, I had never once given such an order. Within the first several minutes of arriving at this world, I gave it without hesitation. It did not matter. There was nowhere for us to go. Our hyperspace engines refused to activate. Not damaged, not jammed by any weapon we could detect. They simply would not respond, the way your own body sometimes refuses to move during a bad dream. All of our ships were trapped there, in normal space, near a world that had not fired a single visible shot at us, while our fleet quietly disappeared, one vessel at a time, in complete silence. In the days that followed, I tried to understand what had happened. I studied every piece of information our surviving instruments had gathered. My remaining analysts, only a small number compared to what we once had, believed the humans had built something entirely different from any weapon we had encountered before. They called it, based on fragments of data we managed to recover, a kind of quiet defense system. It was not made to attack in the way we understood attacks. There were no visible energy blasts, no missiles streaking through the dark, no declaration of war. Instead, it seemed as though the planet itself had simply decided, calmly and without ceremony, that our ships were no longer welcome nearby, and made that decision a reality. There was no speech given to us, no proud voice claiming victory over the channel we had so confidently opened at the very beginning. When our own flagship began to change shape around us, folding in on itself deck by deck, I remember calling out over every channel we had, asking who was responsible, demanding to know their terms, willing to offer anything in exchange for an explanation. No one answered. The silence was the only reply Earth ever gave us. Out of the thousands of ships that had entered that system with such confidence, only a small handful managed to escape with their engines barely working. We fled a system where the enemy planet had never even needed to send its own ships to face us directly. We did not lose because of a great battle. There was no real battle at all, not in the way we understood the word. There was simply a massive fleet, and then there was silence, and in that silence we finally understood, far too late, that we had mistaken something quiet and patient for something weak and unprepared. I write this account now aboard the very last surviving vessel of the Third Fleet, 3 years after that day. Our leaders have ordered all official records of what happened to be sealed and hidden from the rest of the convergence. They do not want other worlds to learn that a small, developing planet was able to stop thousands of our ships without a single visible shot fired from their side, without sending even one ship of their own to meet us directly, and without offering any explanation at all for what they had done. I do not know if we will ever return there. I still dream, even now, about that pale blue dot slowly turning in the darkness of space, calm and untouched, while around it, our entire fleet quietly came apart in a silence far more powerful than any battle cry could ever be. In the months after our retreat, the Convergence Council called me before them many times. They wanted answers I simply did not have. They wanted to know what weapon Earth had used, what technology allowed them to erase so many ships without any clear signature of attack. I told them the truth, over and over again. I did not know. None of us knew. Our scanners recorded no beams, no explosions, no radiation spikes beyond what should be normal for a system with one small yellow star. Whatever Earth had done, it left almost no trace behind, except for the empty spaces where our ships used to be. Some members of the council believed I was hiding something. They thought perhaps I had panicked and ordered a retreat too early, imagining threats that were not truly there. I understood their doubt. It is difficult to believe in an enemy you cannot see, cannot measure, and cannot even properly describe. I have relived those minutes so many times in my mind that I sometimes wonder if I misremember small details, but the core of it never changes. We arrived with total confidence. We left with almost nothing. I began to study human history after that day, using whatever old data our scouts had gathered over the years before our arrival. I wanted to understand who these people truly were, what kind of civilization could build something so quiet and so effective. I read about their long history of conflict among themselves, long before they ever knew about worlds beyond their own sky. I read about their scientists, their engineers, their long and difficult journey from simple tools to complex machines. I began to realize that we had judged them by the wrong measurement entirely. We looked at the number of their ships and decided they were harmless. We never considered what might happen if a species spent centuries preparing for threats they could not yet see, simply because their own history had taught them that danger could come from anywhere, at any time, without warning. Ithara, who survived the retreat with me, often reminds me that we cannot know for certain why Earth chose silence instead of communication. Perhaps they tried to speak to us and something in our own systems failed to receive it. Perhaps they chose not to speak at all, believing that words were unnecessary once their intentions were already clear. I have turned this question over many times, and I still do not have an answer I am fully satisfied with. What I do know is this: fear changes an entire fleet in ways that pride never could. Before Earth, my crew moved with certainty, almost boredom, treating each new conquest as a routine task to complete before returning home. After Earth, everything changed. Officers who once spoke casually about future campaigns became quiet during briefings. Some requested transfers away from frontier duty entirely. Others, like myself, found we could not stop thinking about that pale blue dot, wondering what exactly waited there beneath its quiet clouds. I have asked myself many times what would have happened if High Marshal Daskaru had chosen a different approach. What if we had sent a smaller scouting party first, rather than our entire combined fleet at once? Would the outcome have been different, or would it simply have delayed the same result? I do not think we will ever know the answer, and perhaps it is better that way. Some questions are better left unanswered, especially when the answer might only bring more fear rather than more understanding. The Convergence has grown more careful since our return. New rules have been created regarding first contact with unfamiliar worlds, especially those with technology levels similar to what Earth appeared to have. No fleet is now permitted to enter a new system in full force, without first attempting quiet observation from a distance. I do not know if these new rules would have saved us, had they existed before our arrival at Earth. I only know that our mistake has changed how every future mission will be planned, whether the Council openly admits this or not. Sometimes, during long quiet hours aboard this ship, I find myself imagining what life must be like on that world now. I imagine their scientists studying whatever remained of our fleet, if anything remained at all. I imagine their leaders discussing what to do next, whether to prepare for our possible return, or simply continue living their lives as they always had, unaware that far away, an entire empire now speaks of their world in careful, hushed tones. I have come to respect Earth in a strange way, even though respect feels like an odd word to use after everything that happened to us there. They did not seek us out. They did not attack first. They simply protected what was theirs, calmly and completely, and then said nothing more about it. There is a kind of quiet strength in that, one that I did not expect to find in a world we once dismissed as simple and undeveloped. I do not know what the future holds for the Convergence, or for Earth, or for the strange and distant relationship between our two peoples that may or may not ever properly begin. I only know that I will carry the memory of that day with me for as long as I live. 11,000 ships arrived at that quiet blue world with total confidence, expecting an easy victory. Only a handful of us returned, carrying nothing but questions, respect, and a silence of our own that we have never quite been able to break. We came expecting to find a garden waiting to be taken. We left having learned, in the most humbling way possible, that some gardens are far stronger than they appear, and choose to show their strength only when it is already far too late to matter.